Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. My name is Laura-Lynn Thompson, and it is a crazy world. A few years back, we wouldn't have thought that we were having to, talk about things like what is a woman. It seemed pretty obvious a few years ago, at least to my world. But everything changed. We're having to discuss and fight and have big focus groups, on where everything is going. So we've been in the fight of our lives, and the problem is that the children have been caught in the crosshairs, and somehow I would say very unwelcome teaching has come into our schools without our knowledge as parents. There has been a faction that believes that something that 10 years ago nobody had even heard of. And I will tell you the truth that 7 years ago, I began to fight SOGI in the schools, and it was brought to my attention through a couple of mothers. And myself and a woman named Carrie Simpson, I mean, we really battled this. We just couldn't believe it, actually, at first. So we had to get the studies that they had implemented, and then they were putting it into all kinds of different classes. I mean, I don't know what math had to do with gender, but somehow there'd be a gender teaching in there. And the hardest part for us back in 2016 and 17 was convincing people we were telling the truth. So something that was so bizarre that people didn't even believe it could possibly be is now standard, and it is the subject now of protests, of epic stands where Christians, Muslims, Sikhs, even atheists and the Jews have put their arms together, linked, to fight for their kids. And that's where we're at. So you know that I love to open my show every single day with something from my father's Bible. I miss him a lot. He died 2 years ago, almost 2 years now. And every day I flip to a new page and I kind of just, see what comes. And it's really beautiful. So this today, the Bible just fell open to Isaiah 46, and he has two verses underlined on this page. It's amazing. So verse 7 says, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. That is a verse for great discussion. Does it mean that God makes people do evil? I believe he's given everyone free will. But in the beginning, when he had the tree of knowledge of good and evil, I guess he knew what evil was. And there are places in the word where it says that he brings about an evil ruler even for his purposes. Because sometimes there is judgment needed in certain areas. I don't know. And then there's verse 11. So he has underlined this. Thus says the Lord, the Holy One of Israel and his Maker, ask me of things to come concerning my sons and concerning the work of my hands. Command ye me. Wow. I really like it that God, who never changes, is basically saying, ask me of things to come. What is God's advice for us in these days? In these days of pure evil, in these days where evil has been given full right to fester because of the will of man. God, in his word, is very clear that he is not for evil, but that it exists. And it has existed, I guess, for a very, very long time. And we are seeing an uprising like never before. And in fact, in my belief system, it's going to get worse because the epic battle between good and evil is here. So crime is up in the United States like crazy. We're seeing crime rise in Canada, if you can believe it. I was watching something last night, and it was on, the legacy media, which you just can't believe these days. But interestingly, people are very upset because there are folks being let out of jail that should be kept in jail for justice sake. There's all kinds of things going on that we don't fully understand. When, Alberta has had to investigate all kinds of, arson issues. And in fact, in British Columbia here, numerous accounts of people saying these fires have been set. What's going on? It's an evil world. Murder is on the rise. Hatred is on the rise. I don't condone any kind of hate. I condone truth. And when you know the truth sets you free, and you need to speak about it. And we need to have these very difficult conversations that are happening. I want to introduce to you very quickly my friend Nadine Ness. And Nadine has really been somebody that has had to stand up for what she believed in. And it really came from her background, what happened to her, and what shaped her views and gave her her mission for this lifetime. And she is a strong advocate for parental rights, not only because she's faced some very difficult things, even in her childhood, but because now she has children and the fight has come to her doorstep. So Nadine, I welcome you today. Thank you very much for being willing to talk to us and to share a little bit of your story. Maybe just start there, Nadine. You know, tell us about why you're so passionate about the organizations that you're involved with, and personally, how it came to be that this is such an important topic, parental rights.
Yeah, so I'm the president of an organization called Unified Grassroots. We have about, I'd say 60,000 members and followers throughout Canada, but mostly in Saskatchewan. And it was kind of founded by accident. When all of this stuff was happening with COVID, my daughter was one of the ones that was really affected by it. And by the end of the school year, she was deemed medium to high risk for suicide the first year of COVID. So when the new changes were announced, we decided that we were going to start standing up and actually explaining how there's negative effects of all these COVID mandates on our children. And my husband and I decided to stand up and do a presentation in front of the school board. So we decided to gather with a few other parents, and I started a group chat just to share my address, my physical address, and not a group chat, a Facebook group. And overnight, it grew to 850 parents within our school division.
Wow.
And then we ended up deleting my physical address. And then we rented a hall, and 250 parents showed up, and we had like a town hall. And that's where our organization was born. And out of that, we kind of became the hub, because my husband was a physician, and I'm a former police officer as well. So I don't know if that played a part as to why so many people came to us asking for help. And we ended up creating side groups within that organization for teachers who were against what was happening, police officers, doctors, nurses. So they all had these side groups to gather together. And it just kind of grew our organization organically throughout the province of Saskatchewan. And it's probably one of the bigger groups that we would consider like the freedom fighter groups. Is probably one of the biggest one per capita in all of the provinces. So that was for COVID. And then this stuff started happening in the school, and we still stand by what we stood by then. We wanted parental involvement in these policies that were affecting our kids in the schools. So we ended up, I guess, starting digging into some of the gender stuff that was coming into the school, because our organization is kind of the hub for anyone that goes somewhat against the grain from mainstream media, from the woke ideology. We often will get the stories of what's happening in the province, and they're asking, can you share it out? Can you spread it? And so yeah, we started hearing things in the schools, and I started digging, and I realized there were policies already in place within our school division that parent were to not be notified about gender ideology. There was a lot of things being implemented at the school board level. So in the province, we don't have provincial legislature on this, or legislation on this. It was being brought in by these school administrators, like all of the bureaucrats, and then pushed on to the school board. And then the school board had to decide if they were going to approve it or deny it. So not every school had the same level of I guess, policy when it came to that. So we started exposing it. We did a campaign with our group to let parents know that this was actually a thing, to start demanding change from the government. And this was in June, so early June of this year. And then we started educating parents on the parental authority that they currently had. So a lot of parents didn't know they could pull their kids from sex ed. They didn't know they could say that they didn't want their kids exposed to gender ideology. They didn't know that they already had that right.
You know,
So
isn't it
we
interesting, Nadine, if I could just say, it's so interesting
Sure.
what we don't know about our rights in a free country as free citizens. Like we actually, question, do I have to do this or that? Like, for instance, when my kids were little, I didn't know that I didn't have to vaccinate my children. I honestly it never crossed my mind. I thought we have to, and it's been through the education process of finding out even what we can do with police officers or not, what rights police officers have and what rights they do not have, which you would know a lot about, having been a former police officer. But what I value is that we're training people to embrace the freedom that we have in this country, while we have it. Because if we keep laying down and we keep allowing people to tell us how we will live or what our thinking should be, I think we lose our freedom. So go ahead.
Yes. Yes. And a big part of people standing up is them knowing exactly what rights they have and what they're facing, what they can do to influence change at their classroom level, at the provincial government level. So that's a lot what our organization does. And then the Lumsden incident happened. So again, it was no different like the other things. We would always be the hub of when stuff like this was to happen. We would get notified quite quickly. And then we started exposing what's happened. I happen to be friends on Facebook with some of the parents already. And I do have a lot of Facebook friends. I don't know them all personally, but so that kind of helped get the real story as to what happened. And then I started digging into the organization Planned Parenthood, why they're doing sexual education in the classroom. And I started doing it from an investigative perspective and from my former police officer perspective. So what happened in Lumsden was not okay. So I started digging, and they're linked to several other
What happened?
organizations.
I'm actually,
In Lumsden.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was assuming everyone knew.
No.
So no, they don't.
I think I've heard something about Lumsden, but I actually do not know the particulars. So educate, because our audience is from actually across the world.
All over Canada.
Yeah.
So basically Planned Parenthood came and they did a presentation on protection with STD, pregnancy, all of that, kind of a normal pregnancy presentation for sexual education. And then after the presentation was done, they had these resources. Now there's two things that I'll talk about. So one of them were what I would call porn cards. So they're A to Z cards that have letters and words. So things like felching. Oh, am I allowed to say that stuff? Probably not on air.
Yeah, nope,
I am.
You can.
Okay. So if there's any kids in the room, ask them to leave. but they had very vulgar terms and very vulgar explanation. And I wouldn't be able to read it on air. That's how vulgar it is. And if you haven't seen them yet, just Google Katie, CATIE, sex cards, and you'll be able to see
them. Yes, JT's reminding me we have kind of covered that a little bit. So disgusting, absolutely. Like, I wouldn't want to show it because it's like, I don't want to scar the viewers' minds, but you need to know what they're doing.
How bad it was. So they had these cards, and they engage a smaller group within the classroom with these cards, and even pass them to some of the kids so that they would start reading them out loud. And one of them did read some out loud. And then other kids kind of came over. But what you're hearing in the media is not accurate to what actually happened. So the media was saying a kid stole this out of a bag. They weren't supposed to see it. That's not actually what happened. But I think that with the statement released by Planned Parenthood, not truthful. And then the initial email that was sent by the school to parents had basically alluded to that, but that was before they had the full story. So what I'm sharing is what the full story was that I got directly from parents of children who were involved. And I've actually spoken to the kids as well, met some of those kids as well. And then, so that's just one of the things that's really horrific. But they also had a pamphlet that was called Safe Sex Guide. So again, you can find it, Katie Safe Sex Guide. And it
So how
talked
do you
about
spell that? Just for people that want to be very aware of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
K-A-T?
No, CATIE. They stand for something, but I'm not.
C-A-T-I-E.
Yeah.
Katie's cards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sex cards. We if they want to find more, we did post about it on our public page on Unified Grassroots. So and we
Okay.
posted kind of all of these details as well on Unified Grassroots. So if you do a search for that too, you'll find it there. So yeah, they also had this flyer that talked about urinating on each other, defecating on each other, fisting. They were talking, and this is a grade 9 classroom. And then it also talked about how drug use
these
can
freaks?
increase sexual.
I mean, really, are these people freaks? Like who gives that to kids? The only kind of sicko that would give this to children would be somebody that might have a questionable character and that you wouldn't want near children. Do you know what I mean? And this is
Yes.
being put forward to our next generation. It's so disturbing. It gets me so hot under the collar. Continue.
I totally agree. And so I see it too from a police background. So I wasn't just like a normal police officer. I took specific training on how to profile and interview child sex offenders. So that includes pedophiles, but also child sex offenders that offend on children that's not necessarily sexually motivated. So I look at this from that kind of background. Oh shoot.
That's okay.
I don't know what just happened. I just lost you.
Nope, you're there. Nope, you're there.
Oh, you can see me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem.
I look at it from a police background. And so the more I went digging, these organizations are linked to some really, really concerning organization. I did a video. It's an 18-minute video. If you search it on YouTube, the Nadine Ness Show, it talks about this organization, Planned Parenthood, and some of their affiliated ones. So if you want to bring up one of the ones, not just the tip.ca. So this is an organization that's currently working on revamping the sexual education classroom, and it goes in line with the cards and the flyer. They really promote that they consider the current sex ed to be a shame-based education or shame-based program, and they change it to a pleasure-based program. And when they give examples of what that means, is basically if it feels physically good, it is good, and nothing's off limit. So you can see that if you look at not just the tip.ca, they kind of explain how they're going to start doing that into the schools. Regina, Saskatchewan was one of those schools or one of those areas that was chosen as a pilot project. There are others as well. And we received a secretly recorded audio of what exactly they plan on changing and teaching. And I allude to it a little bit in my video. We will be releasing it in a little while. But yeah, that's not just the tip.ca. Now, if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the organizations that they're partnering with. So one of them is the Canadian Centre for Gender and Sexual Diversity. Now, I'll give you an example. So as a police officer who was trained to profile child sex offenders, I was trained to look for specific things in a search warrant. So some of those things were code language. Some of those things were symbols. Now, there's several symbols that pedophiles use to not only find each other, but also find others who are allies. Sorry, there's fruit flies in my office. So one of these logos, and I didn't send it to you Laura-Lynn, but I'm going to see if I can bring it up on my phone so you guys can compare. I do this
Do you
in my
mean the
video.
pedophile symbol?
Yeah, yeah. So
Mhm.
there's the triangle and the heart within the heart. So just, I'm just going to see if I can, if you get a chance to bring it up. Logo.
Yeah.
So if you want to go back, so this is the Canadian Centre for Gender and Sexual Diversity. So they're like one of their biggest projects. If you want to go back to their website. So one of the logos is like a heart within a heart. I'm just going to see.
Yes,
I'm
I
going to
see
bring
it.
it up on my phone. So
Yeah.
just so that your viewers can see it. Hopefully.
Right. That's the
Yeah.
gender, that's the pedophile
Yeah.
symbol.
Yeah. So if you look on that website, there's two of them. There's
You
the
can
heart
see a
within
heart
the
there
heart.
too. Oh my
Yeah, yeah. So there's
goodness.
the heart within the heart, and then the triangle with the they kind of make it look like a fingerprint, but it's the exact same as the other one. So I'll tell you what both differences are.
Wow.
So one is the man boy love attraction. So basically, a pedophile will be attracted to boys only, and the heart one is the girl attracted to girls only. Now, there's other ones if they're attracted to both. So the butterfly would be one that they don't discriminate on gender. Uh, Ironically, that we're saying that, but so that's an organization that gets their funding through the federal government. So when I saw this, I couldn't believe it that they were so blatant. Now, I'm not saying that everyone who's involved in that are pedophiles. The simple fact that they have that on their organization basically says that they
Right
are an
here.
ally. That this is how they find each other, right? And then the triangle is the same. That's if you see just up a little bit higher on the left. So the pink
Oh,
triangle
yeah,
with the
right here.
fingerprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the other one. So basically they're saying we're an ally. So just the simple fact that they have that on their website will attract pedophiles. And I
Wow.
brought this to light several months ago, and they still haven't removed it. They haven't changed it.
It's in
So I
plain
find this
sight
very,
now. It's in plain
Mhm.
sight.
Yeah. So it's extremely disturbing. So in my video, I brought light to all of these organizations, to what exactly they're trying to do in the school system, like through the pleasure-based sexual education. It's kind of bringing into a little bit that queer theory where nothing's off limits. The only reason that we believe that this is bad is because society is saying it's bad. The only reason that child sexual abuse is traumatic is because society makes them believe that it's wrong and it's traumatic. So if we were to normalize it all, then it wouldn't be traumatic for the child. So I'm a former survivor, I'm going to say, of child sexual abuse. And I was young enough, I was 8 years old. I didn't know what sex was. I didn't know if it was right or wrong. Nobody had said this was right or wrong. But I knew to my core what was happening was wrong. I knew to my core that it was affecting me negatively, and that's why I spoke up. So this whole mindset that society and this is what pedophilia activists push forward. They want to normalize this in society. They want to normalize this depravity, and and a lot of these kind of activist movements that are unfortunately have infiltrated a lot of the LGBTQ movement is pushing for this normalization. So,
And I want to show here, Nadine, this is a federal bureau. This is the FBI, okay, Investigation Intelligence Bulletin. This is to verify what you're saying. These are symbols and logos used by pedophiles to identify sexual preferences. This has been around a long time. It's been since 2007 this is listed. And it's got these, these sort of the circular things. So why in God's heaven would anyone want to have any symbol even remotely close to that being used in their, as Trudeau did actually in the Trudeau thing. But here's like the heart, okay? The girl lover logo. Look at that. You're not making this up. You're this,
No.
and this organization is basically putting out a symbolic attachment and invitation to the pedophile bunch. So God help us all.
And so after we brought this to light in the Lumsden incident, we did a really big campaign to push for removing all of these organizations from the schools. And I don't know if you've heard about the announcements in the province of Saskatchewan. So that was one of the things. These organizations were banned from the schools. Their resources were banned, and basically teachers are not allowed to work with these organizations to when it comes to the sexual education. So that was a really strong, good move that I saw that the Sask government took. But they also implemented other changes as well. So they educated the parents by saying this is a policy, even though it was already there, that parents had a right to pull their child from sexual education. They had a right to say, I don't want my child exposed to LGBTQ material. I don't want my child exposed to gender ideology. So they re-educated parents that they have that right to not expose their children. They just have to let the school know in writing that they don't want that. So, and then there was the other one where basically, because we brought light that this was already in place in school when no one knew, the gender, changing your pronouns and your gender at school now requires parental consent, and parents need to be notified.
And Scott Moe has really gone out on a limb in your province, hasn't he, to defend that parental rights? And he's under attack now.
Oh, yes. So we're seeing that kind of all over. Anyone who kind of comes to the defense of parental rights and the defense of children when it comes to this stuff gets under attack. I'm no different than that. So, but yeah, I'm really happy to see these changes now. I don't know if you know, but there's with that attack, there's groups that have, this is actually quite interesting, and I'll get you to search it. If you search U of R Pride, there is a group that's applying for an injunction on these new changes along with EGAL Canada. U of R Pride actually has in their, I guess, acronym, LGBTQ acronym, they've actually added the P in there. And they say it stands for pansexual.
Can you spell it letter by letter? U of R. Do you mean?
U R Pride. Here, I will actually send you. Mm-hmm. I'll send you a photo of it if that's okay.
Just that's okay. Yeah. You are Pride. Why are Pride? I see that there's Tri Pride queer events.
I'll see if I can send it to you. I'm just going to find it on my profile because that was one of the things that I kind of exposed like a few months ago. And they're saying that it stands for pansexual, but the simple fact that it's P, everyone's been saying, oh, it's just a matter of time before they add the P in there. And now an organization, and I haven't seen any other organizations do that, but you are Pride. And that's an organization that's within the University of Regina. So it's a pride group within the University of Regina that's done that. I'm going to see if I can find it for you because I think people need to know this stuff. But yeah, quite under attack. And now we're having to defend in our province. So I've been trying to assist some of the intervener lawyers who are going to be intervening.
I see this. You are Pride. Let me... Is this what it is here, Nadine?
Yes. So I'm going to send you the exact link.
Okay.
If you does it say down below maybe about us? Because if they have the acronyms somewhere there, I'll see if I can find it. I should have gotten this ready, but I didn't even think about it, Laura-Lynn.
It's okay. Just tell us what you'd want someone to notice here. Other than they're definitely, look, they've got all the butterflies and whatnot.
Oh, I hadn't seen that one. Wow. Like, why would they add that? That's that's a new thing. So again, it's just very here, I'll send you the photo on. I don't know if you can show the photo, but it's basically
Hold it up
University
to
of
the phone.
Regina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hold it up to your screen.
Here. Whoop. Oh,
Yep, we
do you
see
see
that.
that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it explains, it says it's for pansexual. But
Right.
just the idea, they know
Whatever that
it's,
means.
yeah, they know it is controversial, but yet they're still putting that in there. So that's who's applying for an injunction. So hopefully we're going to see that's going to court on September 19th.
Okay.
So basically we're trying to get an emergency injunction until the whole case is heard, which will be at a later date. So, but yeah, September 19th, we should find out if the injunction is going to be approved or not. So,
Okay.
and if it is, it would pause these changes.
All right. And what is your organization again?
It's called Unified Grassroots.
Unified
Grassroots.
And
Yes.
this is the one where basically thousands of people have decided to join you all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have, so on different platforms. Our biggest one, I would say, would be our Facebook group. We have almost, I think, 14,000 members on our Facebook group. And then we have our website. So we have, some people are not on social media. So we do monthly kind of updates, or sometimes we'll send emails. So if you want to get updated to our campaign, you can subscribe there. And so those are videos during COVID that I did. If you scroll down to the bottom one, there was one to Scott Moe, basically telling him how far he had strayed. And that's one of the reasons our group grew so much, is the video to Scott Moe had gone viral, and he called me the following week. So that one, yeah.
That's awesome.
So he called me the following week. So this was like in December, I would say, of 2020. And following that phone conversation, his tone with the unvaccinated completely changed 180 degree. And everyone has asked me, what did you say to him? Did you threaten him? Did you bribe him? So I think so that's kind of one of the reason our groups grew. So yeah, it's not a perfect video. I've never done a video before. The Lord, is it okay if I talk about God, how God
It
did
sure
this?
is. This is a free
Well,
country.
so-
You get to talk about God. Shockingly, it doesn't happen all that often, but you do get to.
So what had happened is Scott Moe was one of the worst ones for language towards the unvaccinated. And I just remember praying the night before, God, how do we change this? It's dividing families. I would have people call me crying on the phone because their family member, their father, wasn't inviting them for Christmas anymore. And I prayed to God, and then I got woken up at 2 a.m. and it was a message that I needed to address Scott Moe and show him how far he had strayed. And it was so strong, I couldn't go back to sleep. And I don't usually wake up in the middle of the night, but I couldn't go back to sleep. So I started writing a script. And then literally the next day, that morning, I get a gentleman who calls me who says, someone's told me to get a hold of you. I thought maybe you could use my help. And it turns out I'm like, what do you do? And he was a videographer. So that's how this video was made. And it was really the turning point in our province with the direction. It was going towards hate and division, and it really started going in the other direction.
Wow.
So, and it was very needed before Christmas, very much needed. So, and
well, that is absolutely
we
fantastic. Nadine, it's kind of like you've been an Esther, like called to speak into the lives of these, these officials, and you've done it well, and you've done it with wisdom behind you. But it is the fight of your life. I'm sure you've come under fire from lots of different, areas.
Yes. And that's, I expect that to happen when you're doing what God is asking you to do. The devil doesn't like that. So he's going to send everything he's got to try to deter you or or turn it turn it into not wanting to fight anymore. But
Right.
I've
I
been
want to show
very
some of these cool people you're working with. This Brad Trail, I'm certain I've seen him somewhere.
he
Lovely.
used to be with the Canadian Firewall.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So that's, I
And
think, where I met him.
Leah Bubnick is one of those the teacher's assistant that was fired for sharing a LifeSite news article. I don't know if you had
Right.
heard about her.
Yes, I
So
had. Yeah,
yeah,
I feel
she's a
like we've
member of our
interviewed
board.
her, right? We do a lot of
You might
interviews
have.
in a year. Yeah,
That's
I think
okay.
we did. Yes, and yeah. Okay, so people are rising up, and they're beginning to fight, and it is a battle because you end up facing some very difficult things when you stand up,
Mhm.
as we're going to see. So I want everybody listening, if you care about parents and parental rights, this is a group doing an awful lot. unifiedgrassroots.com. Get a hold of Nadine, or the powers that be in there. Become a part of it. Become a part of how to change your province, because Nadine, this isn't just about Saskatchewan any longer, is it?
No. No. When we do the call to action, it applies for everyone. Just most of the time we would share like the contact list for elected officials in Saskatchewan. We can't share all over Canada. It gets a little bit harder. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same campaign, the same mandate can be applied across all of Canada. And that
Okay.
video that I released, it's not on the site, but the one exposing these organization, people should share that video with their elected officials in other provinces so that they can see what is happening to sexual education and how it's coming in. I think a lot of elected officials don't even know that this is coming into our schools. So that I would highly recommend that video be used to be equipped to equip parents to kind of push back on what they don't want their kids exposed to.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thanks for the fight. Thanks for your courage and emboldening and helping other parents to as well be courageous, because we found ourselves in a fight we didn't expect. We didn't know that our schools would become unsafe places for children's learning, that they would be given sex cards, right? While you don't think that that would be happening in school, they're given on fisting and felching and whatever. Very disturbing. It's absolutely sick. And millions of parents across this country are very disturbed by it and will not put up with it. But somehow we do seem to have some people that don't have a lot of courage, that are in power in certain positions, that seem to go along with it. And we don't know exactly what's going on there. Sometimes, you wonder if they're bribed, if there's certain other things at play. We just, you have to wonder, because what is making you not have a common sense approach to the protection of children, and not sexualizing kids, and not having pedophile, symbols being allowed on any document in the school. Should never have that we're actually presenting to children, So it's just, it's pure insanity. Thank you, Nadine. And let's do this again. Thank you for sharing your heart and your passion with us. And we're just so proud of you. Thank you for standing.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Absolutely beautiful. And we have another incredible guest today that we want to share with you. And she as well has come under fire. Really lovely woman, salt of the earth, true Canadian, a typical mother. And she's been standing, and she's put her name forward to be on a school trustee board. Her name is Manique LaGrange. My husband and I, she sent a little bio. They've been farmers together for over the last 20 years near Red Deer. And they've got 3 children, 11, 13, and 15. She has her Bachelor of Education. She's taught school, I guess, for approximately 10 years in Alberta and internationally. She has owned her own floral business, contributing mostly to the wedding industry. Absolutely fabulous. I have another friend in exactly that position in Vancouver, and she sends me the most gorgeous pictures. I love them. My passion, she says, is based around the family societal mountain and educational societal mountain, especially protecting our children. I absolutely love it. And her interest is in a stand against the topics of critical race theory, SOGI 123, and vaccine mandates and masking. Thank God for people standing against this. So please welcome Manique. Thank you very much for waiting in the background. We sure appreciate you.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So this is quite a list that you have on here. And similar to our last guest, you've been involved in that battle to protect the children. And we're all a little bit surprised at what we have to protect children from. In the old days, we wanted to make sure that they were healthy, they had a clean and nice environment, and that maybe their teacher wasn't too bullying or anything. And we taught our children to respect authority. And now we found out, as the last guest has shown, that organizations can come in literally bearing the pedophile symbol, as noted by the FBI for many years, on their documentation, and that can slip past school trustee boards, slip past teachers, principals, and get into the children's classroom. And so you also, now you're from the Red Deer area, and I just want to say how much I love that area. I grew to appreciate the deep-rooted principles, values of those Canadians, because I ran there actually in 2019 for a political position. And I got to know a lot of people. And I was highlighting the SOGI. They don't like to call it curriculum, so I'm always stuck. But they have their lessons that they seem to implement everywhere. So I'd like to open it up to you, Manique, to tell us what's going on in Alberta, specifically the Red Deer area, and what has your experience been, and what is your position now with the schools?
Yeah, so I still am trustee. I was removed from a organization that supports Catholic school boards, but I am still on Red Deer Catholic School Board. And so it's been on my radar, I guess, since COVID. I really woke up to what was going on and took an interest in my kids' education. And so I had a defining moment where I was going to pull my kids out of school, and I'm like, God, what do I do? And so it came up on my phone. It was municipal elections and Red Deer Catholic trustee. I'm like, oh, I could do that. What? It's one meeting a month, right? Not. But so I put my hat in the ring there and I was elected. And so things have been happening, like the critical race theory. And so looking at how that language tends to slip in. And then, further down the road, we see all the SOGI 123 things happening. Now, that's not in Red Deer Catholic, but you have to understand, SOGI 123 is not the only contributor, just like we learned from the previous guest, Nadine. And so it's really educating parents and getting them to wake up to the fact that you are the child's primary educator. And so you need to take responsibility for what's going on in the school, in the classroom, know your teachers. And so that became a little bit more difficult because at COVID, parents were not allowed in the schools. And so we were barely allowed to the front door. So it's building back that community so that parents feel like they can go into the school. And it's just like you said, we think we have to ask, we just don't understand that we can.
Right.
And so
we have the right.
Yeah, we have a right as parents. We have a right to be in our children's school and in the classrooms. And so it's knowing your teachers as well. And so you can be a huge influence on your teachers. Parents can. And so just knowing what's going on in the classroom, that's huge. And working with your school board, like the trustees, get to know them, go to a meeting, show them what's going on in the world. Because not everybody can be aware, like everything's a slow trickle, right? So just learning what's happening in the world, like for some people, that's a big step. So it's just taking them beyond mainstream media, really. And so
Yeah, I think you're bringing up a good point, Manique, that not every school board trustee actually has been paying much attention to the fact that the United Nations wants to sexualize children and is basically putting in their documentation that children are sexual beings and have the right to kind of explore that. And so, like, we're having different schools there, they've got like masturbation rooms. I mean, I'm in shock. Like, but we have the people on that are talking about how their schools are just going all into this, like the protection. We don't tell the parents when they're changing their gender. We don't tell the parents. They want us to call them a different name at school, and they're protecting kids and beginning to usher them into something that the parents have no idea. Parents in British Columbia found out that their child was changing because they saw the school yearbook with their child under a different name. No one mentioned it to them. And they thought something was wrong, but there was just no communication. This ought not to be. This is wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so wrong. And so, like, know what is going on in the classroom. I know we're all busy. We're busy parents. Everybody works. Everybody's got more on the go. We've got, extracurricular for the kids, but we need to take that time and we need to reconnect with our kids and know who they are and stand by them, back them up. So, at school, teachers don't know your kids more than you know them. They might know a little bit of a different side of them, but it's, you still you're the parent. You are the primary educator. And that even is stated in the Education Act here in Alberta. And Nikolai Dimitrios, his mandate letter, in it, they are saying that reviewing the role of the parent, school councils, and working with educators to explore ways parents can appropriately provide more input into school policies and learning options. So, we need to get in there. We need to push into these places, into the government, and start making it known that government overreach is not going to be tolerated anymore. And so, we're not a conspiracy theorist. The UN is responsible for a lot of this, and it trickles down in very deceiving ways. So we have to be aware. Just do a little bit of research. Like I watched Dr. James Lindsay. He's somebody that has done a lot of research about it. He knows a lot. He was on the Sean Newton podcast and did a great interview there. And it tells you how this all happened. When did this happen? And, when we think about indoctrination, we think, well, our kids are being indoctrinated. Well, yeah, but let's take a step further. Well, so teachers inherently are good. They're not out there to do, bad things to your kids. They have gone through a process called university. And in that process, there's been a trickle. And so a trickle of indoctrination. And so that is where it's starting. So we have indoctrinated teachers teaching our children. And so that's the start of it. And that's where we have to go in and maybe take a step back and how can we deal with this? What's the next step? And just look at what the enemy is doing there with our kids. Absolutely.
And Manique, because of this stand, you found yourself in some hot water recently, and there's a bunch of articles about it. Trustee says her post was about protecting children involving parents, and you kind of made a stand, and you found yourself in a little bit of trouble as we're seeing.
So I posted a meme on Facebook, and just on my stories, I just shared it. And so it had gotten a lot of attention, and a lot of negative attention started to come in. So my chair, she called me and said, can you take it down? And so I looked, I said, well, it's already down, so it's gone, right? She's like, okay, sounds good. Couple hours later, she calls me again. She says, apparently somebody has complained about this meme now, and they've also given it to the Red Deer Advocate. So the Red Deer Advocate decided to write a story. They did not talk to me about it. They just went on their own words, and whoever else they got to talk about it. But yeah, it's gotten a lot of attention here because I'm standing up and saying no to this indoctrination, no
Good for
to
you.
everything that's going on. And so, yeah, I'm going to keep standing, and it's about our kids. It's about protecting the kids. So that's the bottom line with all of this.
You know, when we look at history, we can see that certain terrible things happened. And we know that if we do not learn from history, it can be repeated. And I think that you were sort of outlining a terrible time in history when something really, really bad happened and certain things were taught, ideologies were brought in, and a lot of people were hurt and murdered, actually. And so when we liken what's going on right now, I think the problem that I have, Manique, is as a parent, as a person who loves children in Canada, and who now represents quite a majority of parents that did not have any agreement with these teachings coming into our schools. Critical race theory is really teaching racism. It defines everyone by their race. It goes over historical things that form opinions that we're all racist, basically, and that, you know, the white privilege is really the problem. I mean, at the core of it, that's what they're teaching. They are outlawing this in schools because it's actually bringing racism into the children's minds. Now, when you talk about SOGI and this unscientific ideology of being able to change your gender, we are seeing thousands and thousands of young people now coming out on YouTube desisting, meaning they changed, they transitioned because it was quite the fad. And it still is. We have a problem. So it's like a social contagion, which is what someone called it yesterday that we were speaking with. And the social contagion is now that it's a popular thing. There's a lot of reasons to be considered, bisexual, or, that you can just change your genders and whatnot. This is it's a very acceptable, it's a celebrated thing in our schools. So if you even want attention, that's one way to get it. But further to that, kids in Canada are now being allowed to have operations at 14, 15, 16 to remove their breasts. So these people that have done things like this are now coming out on YouTubes and basically saying, what the heck did you do to me? I was a child and you allowed me to remove my breasts. And by the way, I changed my mind. I'm now 25 and I do want to be a woman, and there's no operation to reverse what they've done. That's going to be on your dime. We're all paying for operations for kids and, to kind of transition, but nobody helps you once you realize that was a complete lie. And so this is a huge problem.
Yeah. And body dysphoria, it's, at the end of the day, it's a mental disorder, right? And so you can have the surgery, but you're not going to feel any different. And so that's what statistics have been showing with people that are transitioning and then people that are wanting to transition back, right? And so, like this has to be dealt with in a different manner than, giving them hormone blockers and just affirming what they're doing, because it's not the right way. And so our children are at risk because their identities and their destinies are at risk here, because their true godly identities, they're going the opposite way. And so instead of focusing on what the enemy is telling them, we need to get them focused on, what's Jesus telling you, and more focused on that. And so, yeah, it's a horrific thing that's going on. And the age that people are starting that this is happening is horrific. It's heartbreaking. And so these kids will be, they could be sterilized. They could be, there's all sorts of things. We don't have a lot of information on what happens, 20 years being on hormones. So I'm sure there's a lot of health, effects that are going on. So it's really heartbreaking to see this.
You know, we've done a lot on this issue because it's been a passion for me, Manique. And
Yeah.
we actually highlighted a very public story of I Am Jazz. And I Am Jazz is a tragedy. So this boy wants to be a girl, and so he transitions. Then he doesn't have enough of his private parts because they stunted the growth of his penis. So this is all true, and it was documented in a real life drama. And he didn't have enough material to make a correct vagina, so that was problematic. So he had to, and they have to keep an apparatus to keep the a hole there. And I know it's a lot of information, I know, but this is the tragedy. Like, this is what nobody wants to talk about. And so he did not have any sexual feelings, even as he got into being late teens. He didn't know what it was like to have sexual feelings. He didn't feel sexual, and he had no sex drive. And then he also realized he was attracted to girls. So he now has removed his sexual apparatus. He has boobs, and he's just a guy who's attracted to women. And it is a tragedy. You can follow the whole thing. I think the series is on, you can find it on places on the internet. And then we've got these people that are basically coming out, 22, 23, and they're doing speeches across the USA saying, nobody told me not to do this. And I've now, I have a deep voice as a woman that I want to be a woman now. And I have a deep voice, because once you change your voice, it's done. Like, there's no getting that back. And once you remove your breasts, they are not growing back. So you have to do, surgeries to alter that. And the deep regret that is happening. And then they talk about the suicide. They're going to commit suicide. This is the big threat against every parent. You're putting your child into a high suicidality category, but in actual fact, the people that commit suicide, they get the transition operations, and there's a high suicide because they're not happy. That never made them happy. Just like the thing I just put up, a transgender woman for 8 years, time she can't get back. And she says, the surgery couldn't solve the underlying issues driving my gender dysphoria. That is from 2019. The Tavistock clinics have had to shut down. Doctor after doctor that did transition surgeries says they were very unhappy with the growing, mounting evidence of the outcomes. They weren't good. And so I bet a lot of teachers don't know anything that I just said. I bet they haven't sat and watched the detransitioners and the stories that are coming out. And now, all of a sudden, this thing that you can change your gender is, it's now like supposed to be fact, and we're bigots because we don't accept it. Listen, I asked my mom, God rest her soul, she's gone now, but I asked her how many transgender kids in her class. She said, trans what? She didn't even know what I was talking about, because this is a thing that has come up. It's an ideology pushed by mega bucks, by Soros, right? How many people know that Soros has funded the transgender agenda in schools across the world with millions and millions and millions of dollars? Why? This old Hungarian guy who probably didn't even know what transgender was, 15 years ago, but he gets into this and he funds it. So it's the money. The money's behind it. But what I don't understand is how we've lost critical thinking, and something so completely illogical and unsafe and unhealthy and unscientific is accepted by school trustees, teachers, and of course they'll lose their jobs now if they don't teach it.
Yeah. It's like they have like a warped compassion, almost a warped sense of love. Like you love your child, absolutely. But do you let them jump into a fire pit because they think it's cool? No,
Yes.
you stop them, you talk to them, you talk it out. And, the secrecy between teachers and students, it's just not acceptable. So when pronoun sheets are handed out and there's an option to either, do you want me to call you this pronoun in front of your parents or just at school? Like, that's a problem because we're training our kids to lie to their parents. And so
100%.
I'm not okay with that. And it's crazy.
So
And so
disrespectful to the parents.
it is,
Like we're in on this with you, and do you want us to tell your parents? Because we don't need to tell your parents. Like, how arrogant and completely overstepping your bounds. We want you to teach math, science, history, okay? Something that will help the kids in their lives, because most of them get out of school and can't balance a checkbook. We don't want you talking to our kids about their sexuality. And in fact, they don't need to be spoken about it, because none of us had this kind of whacked training with pictures of naked people and gay sex and, heterosexual sex and penises and vaginas all over their books. None of us had that growing up. Sorry, I'm too old to have had any of that. But I guess I figured out how it all works. You know what I mean? So stop it. Like, stop telling our kids stuff they don't need to know. Stop indoctrinating them. Stop propagandizing our children, because we do not accept it. We did not consent. We do not consent to that being taught to our kids. And you just mentioned something else a moment ago about, I think it was about like what, how they're teaching kids in school. And I had a really good point. Monique, you might just have to talk, because I get riled up and then I lose the point. Oh, I had a good one. I was like, okay, I'm going to bring that up. I got it. I remember, Monique. Let me tell you this. I learned this from a transsexual. And this transsexual, his name was Jen Smith, and he never went through operations, but he dressed like a woman. Very articulate, very bright. He, first of all, informed all of us that his whole thing and the people that go through this, it is a mental health issue. And he was able to admit that. He was able to show by his life how this was a mental health issue. Here's the other thing he really educated me on. He educated me on the fact that transgender people are lonely and they commit suicide because he said, go down the path. If you're a dude and you get your apparatus cut off, who wants you? A gay guy? No. Does a heterosexual woman want you? No. Does a lesbian want to be with you and have you as a mate? Well, no, you'll probably just get a real woman. So what happens is you've done all this stuff to try to be the opposite sex, and you've destroyed your avenues to intimacy because the percentage of the population that wants to be with someone that has this fake body, that's weird, because none of it looks very authentic. Mm-hmm. You've minimized your chances at true love, lifelong, lasting relationship, and your chances of those that want what you've become is this big. So what parent should be aggrandizing? I actually spoke with a parent. Yes, my child's a transgender. Like, aren't you devastated? It's like a status symbol now. It's like, I should be proud because, this big fad, my kid's doing that. They're a trans. Wow. So once you get on lifelong cross-sex hormones, you're addicted for life. It destroys your bones structure. It changes your voice. And if your child should ever change their mind, they will be devastated. And the chances of them finding someone that want to love their odd body is very minuscule. And so why would you be excited about this devastating thing that's happening to your child? And so this is the world we're in. And now most school trustees are just going along as if they don't have any critical thinking skills at all, except for you, Manique, and I'm proud to see you standing. I'm sure it's quite a cost, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely is a cost. And, you know, just to be, you feel like you're on an island sometimes, right? Like you're the only one. But, you know, like through all of this, I have seen that there is a silent majority out there, and they are rallying and standing for people that are speaking against what is going on with our youth and towards our youth. So, you know, we just need parents to keep speaking louder, speak up, like write letters, make presentations to your school boards. There's so many things. Go and get involved in the school. So many things you could do. We need to hear, and we need to see the numbers. Like politically, to push the government, they need to see numbers. That's how they evaluate whether, you know, this is something they should look into, move, whatever it is, make policy. But yeah, so we need numbers, and it's really important. It's a crucial time. It's a crucial time for education, looking at the future of it and what direction it's going to go. So we are counting on our parents to be speaking loud, to standing up for their kids, and to be speaking against these things, especially the gender ideology that's going on in the school. And I mean, nobody is erased from that. Everybody, it seems to be affecting everybody in some way or another. So it's truly important that we cut off the arm of the government that's trying to reach in and take control. That conversation of orientation, sexual orientation, that is between a parent and their child and God. That's it. It shouldn't be between anybody else.
100%. We did not consent to the sexualizing of our children and the school taking over what pronoun or what sexual orientation they might end up being. It is not your place. You are really arrogant. All of the schools in Canada, so arrogant in thinking this is your place. You have no business in our children's minds in that way. It's pathetic. We have not consented. And you're right, there is a silent majority. And as we've recently seen with the 1 million march and the show of strong support for parental rights, we have a problem. We also have a problem with our federal governments where they've passed Bill C-4 in unanimous consent. I can't understand a conservative government that in unanimous consent with the enemy. Okay, you're supposed to be the opposition, the royal loyal opposition, and instead, you know, the Conservative Party of Canada, and do we have that video? They did a real fast one on us, and this has made it harder. It's made it harder for any teacher to be able to be logical or stand up for their personal values, because Bill C-4 puts them in danger of losing their job, imprisonment, or also a fine of $200,000. If people counsel someone not to transition, basically, this is what they're calling conversion therapy. And conversion therapy is no longer about, I think in the old days, they would put electrodes to someone. I've talked to a psychologist. That hasn't happened since the 60s. That is not at play in our world at all. So why did we have to ban a conversion? It means, this is what it means. We will convert your kids into thinking that they can be gender fluid. But if you dare try to convert or give them information otherwise, then you're the one in trouble. You lose your designation, you lose your job, you get fined. And it's, you know, and this is the moment that it happened in the Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for unanimous consent to adopt the following motion: that notwithstanding any standing order or usual practices of the House, Bill C-4, an act to amend the Criminal Code, conversion therapy, be deemed to have been read a second time and referred to a committee of the whole, deemed considered in committee of the whole, deemed reported without amendment, deemed concurred in at the report stage, and deemed read a third time and passed.
This being a hybrid sitting of the House, for the sake of clarity, I will only ask those who are opposed to the request to express their disagreement. Accordingly, all those opposed to the honourable member moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. There being
Not
no
one
dissenting voice, I
dissenter.
declare the motion carried.
So what happens is they hoop and holler. You can take down that audio there. They hoop and holler there for the next 2 minutes. So excited that no child can basically be told the truth about gender. And that's our Conservative Party that voted this in, that could criminalize yourself for standing against what's going on. This is a travesty. And
It is.
I know that Red Deer is a very conservative area. I know that Alberta is very conservative, but we have to hold to the fire what has been done to us under the name of their wokeness. They're being woke, just like the Liberal Party, just like the NDP. This is in line with Jagmeet Singh. You have opened the door that we cannot speak against this transgender nonsense. Bill C4 literally hampers anyone from giving a critical thinking answer and common sense scientific answer to this gender nonsense.
Yeah, it really makes me wonder, who are the Conservatives really aligned with? What is really going on, with our federal government there? It's shocking that nobody stood up and said no. And the way the cheering, the jumping, the dancing that I saw there, that's disgusting. And it's shocking. It's like, what is really going on federally? Because I don't think we're getting the full story. That's what I think. And so there's a lot more aligned with the elite agenda than what we maybe initially suspected. So.
Well, this last summer, somebody had a shirt that said heterosexual pride. Heterosexual pride. I mean, it's a shirt.
Yeah.
Some of us, I probably would wear a shirt like that because I'm very proud. I'm a heterosexual woman. I'm all woman. I'm XX. And I'm super proud to be a female. And I should be allowed. Just as any man should be very proud. A black person should be proud to be black. And actually, I'm African Canadian. I was born in Uganda, East Africa. So I'm very proud to be African Canadian. But I'm proud of who God made me. And we're teaching kids to hate themselves. We're teaching kids that God made a mistake. This is an assault and an attack against the very identity that was given to them. And so we have, a big problem. And Pierre Poilievre, he took a picture with a guy with a heterosexual pride shirt on, and then he had to distance himself. Why? Why do we have to distance ourselves from our values and beliefs? This country was founded under Christian values. That's why we're not like North Korea. That's why we're not like Saudi Arabia. If you don't want to have free will about your sexuality and about your choices, then go somewhere else. In Canada, you have the right to be gay, lesbian, heterosexual, pansexual. You can marry whomever you want. That's how liberal. We are one of the most liberal, conservative democracies in the world. You don't have a lack of freedom here. What we do have a lack of freedom here in this country, I would say, is standing up for our traditional values, our deep-held religious convictions. That seems to be where we get in trouble. And so, Monique, I'm just really pleased. I'll just give you the final word. I'm sorry. I've talked a lot during your interview because I'm really so blessed that you're standing up for what is the right thing to do on a school trustee board.
Yeah. So, if we could do anything, I just want to encourage people. It doesn't have to be this way. You are the change makers. It can't just be one trustee here and there. You parents, you're the change makers. So go out, raise your voices, get involved, get in the schools, know what's going on in your child's classroom, and start making changes, because you can. We're here to support. The trustees are here to support. Educate your trustees. Go in and make presentations. But you are the change makers. So let's work together. Let's get connected, and let's start making changes.
I love that. And I hope, Manique, that some of that information that Nadine shared, you know, on the FBI pedophile symbols, that your school board will be watching for these same symbols that are, you know, finding their ways onto curriculum or, you know, activities that are shown to our children. So
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you very much
Thank you
for
so
fighting.
much for having me.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
Manique. You're a beautiful, wonderful person. We're behind you all the way. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. I love it in Canada where we find the people that are standing. And once upon a time, you and I may have felt like, oh, maybe we're alone, you know, but we're not alone. We're not alone at all, because people like Manique are standing. My website is Laura-Lynn.tv. If you appreciate the truth that we tell here, if you appreciate the stories and the side of the story that you will not find in the mainstream media, JT, I don't know if we still have that CBC article up there on the one I'm sharing. So this was the CBC article, Red Deer Catholic School Trustee faces dismissal over hate-filled post on social media. Well, who said it was hate-filled? You know, she was trying to protect kids, right? And then, of course, they put her lovely picture there. She is a stunningly beautiful person. So in any case, what I'm saying is we present the truth, and we bring it every single day. And if you can support us or help us, that would be great. Laura-Lynn.tv. That's where you can find our page, and you can also, you know, sign up to be a monthly donor or a one-time donor, and you can e-transfer us at lauralynlive@protonmail.com. We also have a box number, box 48184. You have no idea how much it means to us. It's not a small thing. We don't have an organization supporting us. We have no other way. We are completely 100% listener supported. And we appreciate that if you think this is the information that needs to be getting across Canada, because every single day on 8 platforms, thousands and thousands and thousands of people get to see Manique, get to see Nadine, and get to hear a discussion that informs our positions, not just what the CBC is saying. But it gives us courage. It gives us strength to be together and to know that there's more of us than we thought. There's more of us standing together. So this is an important thing for me, and I hope it's an important thing for you. I want to close today by reading from Nehemiah 4, and I've done it before, but I think it's such a powerful, this is what God says. Nehemiah was called away from the king's palace. He was called away in order to go and to stand and to speak, and to build a wall of protection around the city. And when he did that, a myriad of things came against him. People tried to get him down off the wall. They tried to get him distracted. One of the key things we're facing right now is so much distraction. You may be called to do something great, but you get distracted, and you know that God told you to write that letter. Please write the letter. Stop now. Like, just write, well, as soon as I'm done, but write the letter, right? If God told you to speak to a certain key person that you might have influence with, don't be shy. Don't lack courage. Don't be a coward. Do what you're asked to do. Do it with focus. We lack focus these days. We must be people who do what God has called us to do, and really nothing else. Like, try to eliminate, if you're tired and exhausted, eliminate all the stuff you're doing every day that God never asked you to do. You know, how much has the Lord asked us to do? It's always, his yoke is easy and his burden is light. That's what the word says. So if you're all exhausted in fighting the good fight, it might be because there's too much on your plate. And, you know, maybe I'm speaking to myself right now, because I do tend to get an awful lot of things on my plate. Right, JT? Would you have to agree with that? I get an awful lot of stuff on my plate. But when you are focused and you have a mission, I love to end every single show by letting you know what the Word of God says. So Nehemiah, he had a job to do. God actually called him to go and to rebuild the wall. And it says in verse 13 of chapter 4 of Nehemiah, therefore I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places. We have got places in our schools that have become exposed. We have lies. It has exposed our families to lies. It is time to fight, to stand, to be ruthless in your courage. Be ruthless with your courage, but be loving at the same time. I'm not talking about violence. I'm not talking about name calling. I'm talking about speaking the truth with power and love. And this is what he said. He posted the guards by families with their swords, spears, and bows. And after I looked things over, I stood up and I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people. So we declare to the nobles and to the officials, to our political leaders, we declare to you something, that our families were standing on guard with our swords, which are metaphorical at this hour. They weren't in the old days. They were like taking people out. Okay, we don't do that anymore. We stand for what we believe in with spiritual swords in our hands, our words, with the power of the Word of God. And this is what they said to the officials. Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, for your sons and your daughters, your wives, and for your homes. We're there, everybody. We are in the war of our lives. There's no time for cowardice. There is only time for you to pick up your metaphorical sword and fight. Fight hard, especially for your families, for your homes. Take care. See you next time. You know, it's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.